Second.
Call the meeting to order. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, go through the agenda, approval of the minutes from last week's meeting. Make a motion to accept, the committee to accept the meeting minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, why don't we go through the, DPW update one?
Good evening, everyone. Real quick, so South Street Water Main, there's no change in status at this time for that project. They're waiting for a schedule to start that job. I did take some of the other items off of here that we already talked about that were completed. Work is ongoing for item 2, which is the 128 I-95 interceptor. So that all that work continues. Town hired contractor Palini, work is ongoing. They're continuing the water service renewals and updates. Number 4 for the staffing, we're still in the same location, still down 4 FTEs. So we'll be looking to hire or try to hire after July 1st here, right after the fiscal year.
Like, is it, I know it's been open for a while, is it just because they're just, no one's applying or just not?
No, we had some that applied, we filled some roles, some people left,
Okay,
so it just kind of cycles.
it's kind of, I see, yeah, okay.
So I think the closest I've ever been is 2 or 3.
You got much close.
Yeah, I was hoping for a for a full house, but it didn't happen. Anyway, the Elizabeth Circle water main improvement, that was completed. So that work's done already. Leak detection survey contractors on board. We're gonna start townwide leak detection. That's when they go out and listen for water main leaks, because that's when they hear them. They can hear them on the mains. The guys will do some work during the day. Other areas that are extremely noisy, they won't be able to do the leak detection. We'll wait. We'll go out at night and do those when traffic's not around. And the last is the MWRA, and that works ongoing at this time also. No changes of this meeting.
Right. Any questions? Comments? All right, Dave, you wanna? Sure. Get some minutes?
So, the handout material I passed out, and the email piece a couple hours ago, which is just pulled out the information specific to our continued discussion. The 3 water rates, options that the committee had narrowed us down to, and the 2 sewer rate options that narrow us down to. Which again, as a reminder, is keeping the current water rate structure that we have today, no changes. Doing an across the board adjustment to the water rates at 2.23%, which effectively is that's how much more revenue we need to raise as a target for 25 over the target from last year. And the third option, W5, was to keep all the rates the same except for eliminate the subsidy rate at step 3 for domestic. So basically step 3 domestic water use is the only thing where there would be a rate change. For the sewer, there were 2 options. Option 7 was a 6.9% increase to all the rates across the board, but not changing the basic service fee. And the new one of the 2 new options that we asked to come back with, which was basically combining options S4 and S7, is increase all the steps by 6.9%, and the annual base fee would be increased by $4 per year, or in other words, instead of $4 a quarter, it'd be $5 a quarter. As a result, with just having those 5 rate options, that provides us with 6 combinations that could be considered for for a rate structure, which I, called alternatives A through alternatives F. And you'll see those on pages 4, 5, and 6. And on page 4, 5, and 6, what I'm showing you is what is the, what would be the impact to the average water bill at 12,000 cubic feet? At 9,094 cubic feet, and that's was the average water usage per DEP by Needham in 2021, or a very low end consumer of 2,400 cubic feet per year. Basically, someone that never gets out of step one. And we show them all. Alternative A is retaining the current water rate structure, and sewer option 7. Alternative B is retaining the current water rate structure in using sewer option S8. Alternative C is using the water option 2 and sewer option S7. Alternative D, water option W2 and the sewer option S8. Alternative E is water option 5 and sewer option 7, and alternative F is water option W5 and sewer option S8. As a result, we look at the impact of the combined rate recommendations that would range between 4.9% and 5.6%. The lowest percentage increase is alternative A, and the highest alternative is alternative D. And again, that's based upon the 12,000 cubic feet per year measure. And you can see what the percentage changes are to the other levels of consumption.
So the only water option that got us out of a deficit is water option 2, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And then. So these combinations, A through E, still come with the same shortfalls or,
Yes, that's just showing what the impact is to the customer.
okay.
They're all within target.
Yes, all of them are in target, of the remaining 3 options. The only one that has forecasted surplus is option 2.
And the way that water usage is trending, it's probably good for us to anticipate that we're gonna be in the deficit again next year.
For 26, yes.
Okay, and this year it's not looking good.
It's because of this year that I anticipated.
I guess the only reason I'm saying that is, if we don't do a raise in the water rates this year, then the pain is gonna be sharper next year. And
Yes.
so there's going to be pain. Yeah, either now or later.
Yes, absolutely agreed. I think really down a lot of the conversation last week centered around the fact that we didn't have a lot of options on the sewer
Yeah.
side that weren't relatively steep.
Yeah. Okay.
And so in some of the discussion last week, our concern was, because we are having I think, I believe if the information is correct, it's gonna be the largest increase that we've ever had.
Right.
And so you get to recommend that to the select board, and the thought process behind it was, since that is such a significant increase on the sewer rate, would this be reasonable time to not do anything to the water rate, for the optics for the select board?
But I think I mentioned it last week, but I would reiterate it, if we were to vote to keep water rates stable, I think it needs to be telegraphed to the select board that
Agreed.
this is up high,
Yeah.
next year, expect a water rate.
Almost like a dump, like.
Yeah, so it doesn't catch them off
Yeah.
guard.
So was it, pretty unanimous, you know, that the approach was don't raise the water rates and.
I wouldn't say that.
I don't
I
think
think
we
we're
got that
unanimous
far.
that he wanted to, make more than one suggestion to the select board.
And one of them
I
was
think it was the,
not raising.
it was kind of implied, it was
Yeah.
like the first one, you know, David, and Dave is what his preference is, and it seems like that might be the first recommendation for them.
Yeah, I was for increasing the water rate. Because I think the modeling is, I think it's tough. And you know, I don't know how much of retainer is, you know,
I'm kind of,
In the free cash, it will be completed.
Retained.
Yeah, so there's no cash, retained earnings.
yeah, I mean,
Free cash.
I guess I'm kind of thinking it's gonna be a tough year, and I think if you, somewhere in here, we have a ranking where we,
Yes, on the last page, just as a reminder,
yeah, where,
comparable to other towns.
where is this, if we do the raises?
Yep.
Where does it put us overall in a ranking? Because Needham has been traditionally, like you pointed out in the past, on the lower side.
Correct.
So,
If we're currently, based upon most recent data, which was December of 23, of the communities, the NWRA communities that are close to us and we compare ourselves to, we're number 16 out of 19. In other words, saying there are 3 communities that have a lower combined water sewer bill for the customer at 12,000 cubic feet. If the committee were to recommend alternative D, the highest increase, that would move Needham from $1,823 a year to $1,926. That would move us from 16 out of 19 to 13 out of 19. So that meaning that there would be 6 communities that have a lower combined water and sewer bill than Needham. And that's comparing to all these customers for last year, which presumably they maybe have to rate increases too.
Is it fair to say that being 16 out of 19 is still kind of an artifact of Coca-Cola?
That is one of the contributing factors, yes. That is one of the contributing factors.
See,
And
I
it's
would,
also helped the growth that we've had.
Sure.
developed.
yeah, I was in the minority of one on this one, but I really liked option 6. Cause that was. The all steps increase 2.23 plus the annual fee. And that's when we got into the whole.
No, I was kind of with you on that one too.
Yeah.
I hear you, yeah.
Because then,
That fee hasn't been increased as we discussed.
and then you would marry that with option W, sewer A, I think. It's not one of the options here, but the reason for that, and I just go back to the sort of philosophical underpinnings, right, that the capital numbers are going up. So that kind of aligns with the base charge. And then the volume numbers are going up, so that's aligns with the volumetric change.
Well, and also the base charge, I would suggest also mitigates stagnant water demand as well.
Yeah,
It kind of attacks, but.
yeah, or if you just keep water the way it is, then the following year it's a bigger change. And you know, when you look at the dollar, I mean, it's like a $10 difference between one and the other for the year. Which, I mean. It's $10, but
I mean, the reality is we're gonna make 3 recommendations and. You know, it's kind of the order of which we put them in, but the board is gonna decide
yeah,
which one. And I'm with you. I think not doing a water increase is a little bit of a, false false platform for next year. Because there's gonna be,
For me, it's all about priorities. For me, personally, I think sewer option 8, in my opinion, is, for me, just speaking for myself, it's the most essential that one. I think that one is the most critical. The shortfall, current year shortfall is significant in the sewer enterprise. So in terms of how I'm thinking about it, it's the one that takes top priorities, the sewer enterprise and option 8. Even though it's, $40,000, $30,000, I'm sorry, with a $2,000 difference at the base charge plus the 6.9. Which where I think it's of the utmost importance. And then the water, I mean. The points are very valid, yeah, and I appreciate Dave's, I understand that through the political optics as well, so I'm. Somewhat neutral. In terms of the water choices.
Just quickly doing the math, if the committee was to, consider, option 6 water combined with option 8. That would bring the annual bill to $1,930. Our position ranking wouldn't change, it would still be 13 out of 19.
what was option 6 again?
Option 6 is the 2.23% increase to all the steps.
Yeah.
Plus an increase in the base fee
Okay,
of $4 a year. Which would go from $15 a quarter to $16 a quarter.
so it's option 2 plus a $4 increase.
Yes. Keeping in mind the base fee has been, remember, it has been increased since 05 when it was created, right?
Correct.
Plus. The wild card is that 30% of the revenue comes from second water in the years. Right?
Yeah.
And so that's really volatile.
That's actually the
The biggest,
one of the biggest problems for us for this year.
So if there was a scenario G, it would be water option 6 plus sewer option 8.
yeah, 36, right?
And you said that's 13, sorry,
That would be the annual bill is $1,930 a year. Which would still keep our ranking being 13 out of 19.
Is that fee applicable for one account, or would that happen per meter? Like if I had a secondary and a,
If you had the second meter, you'd be paying the second meter fee, which would also go up by $1
okay,
per quarter.
Do you know roughly, Dave, what percentage increase that would be?
That's, just,
Guess like 5.8, something like that.
Five point seven? I think.
Yep.
5.9, it depends on which one.
and when you said 3, sorry, the chair again, when you said 3 recommendations to the select board, are you obligated to put that 3, or did you just think we were gonna?
I think it's just best practice with what's done in the past.
It just kind of-
Just say, here's what we think, and it gives them, options.
And also, I don't know if you mentioned it, Dave emphasized with going back to the sewer system, which, like I said, personally, I think it's critical that head towards stabilization in terms of the rates, but Dave made it clear, another big rate increase for the sewer system next year is likely as well.
Yeah.
and just confirming, comment, yes, would be 5.8%.
Yeah.
That's, water 6 and sewer 8.
Somewhat limited in the options that we're gonna be able to present, just because the options of sewer are so limited.
Yeah. I mean, the sewer system needs, in terms of rate support as much as it can get. 7, in my opinion, is wants to, I don't want to say half.
And that 5.8 is combined.
That's the combined impact, yes.
So if we forecast we're gonna have to do a similar increase next year, where would that put us in the ranking? Cause that would bring us to like $2,030 plus or minus.
That would raise us if no one else changes their rate, it would be like 10 out of 19.
That's hard to say though, because everyone's gonna.
Yeah,
Well, assuming that no one. else
Assuming-
changed the rate,
Yeah, it's a,
all other variables. All.
yeah.
Would still be in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is the average is 1920 right now. So even with 100 increase at 1930, you're right at the average. And Waltham is pulling down that average.
And Belmont pulls it up.
I do agree that the fixed cost and the fixed charges that John mentioned, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's just not subject to the usage and. I don't disagree with that.
So it looks like a alternative G
Alternative G, yep.
should be put out.
It'd be an interesting vote.
Well, do we want to just settle in on the three alternatives and then rank them?
Yeah.
So, certainly I think this option G.
Yeah.
Is good.
I think B or A should also be in the mix, given the balance of not increasing water.
I think
B.
B, because A has sewer 7, option 7.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I think the shortfall in the sewer fund, I think the base charge would increase for the sewers. I think that's the more prudent approach.
It's like B, D, and G.
Agree, yeah, D,
Yeah.
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 I mean, without retaining limits, the margin for error has been.
Okay, so that was easy. So let's. Is there any strong sense on what would be the first recommendation? I'll just put out there, I think G.
On B.
I think I'm biased to D.
Why is that?
I think it's hard, given the data that we have in front of us, for us to substantiate a larger increase in water. We have assumptions we can layer into it. But we don't have any definitive data to tell us that we need to increase more. And I get the smoothing effect of adding the base charge.
Well, the base charge is not a smoothing effect. It's tied to the it's tied to the fact that the capital commitment is going up.
Completely get it. It
Yeah.
also does have a smoothing effect, though.
That's a mathematical thing.
Sure.
But from a fiduciary perspective, the base charge,
Completely get it.
yeah.
I'm B first, when I have a lot of respect for your knowledge and know-how in terms of how the select board operates and everything, and I always ask you what you think is the most prudent approach, and I really recommend, suggested, given what's in store for next year, I have deference and respect for your opinion, that's why I rank B first.
John, was your feeling on G, just.
So I would go,
Responsible kind of.
so I'm thinking back to, oh, which this is.
No,
Sorry,
Chair, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, sorry.
But that was your thought process on
Yeah.
G, yeah. And I don't disagree with that.
JT and JT.
Yeah,
Oh,
well, I was
wait,
just
that would've
thinking
been
that. What's your middle initial?
And,
N?
and
Oh, N.
Nicholas.
Oh, Nicholas, okay, it's not a
Yeah.
different one.
Wait, didn't say John.
Oh, was I gonna say something?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking back to another situation where. Things remained unchanged for many years and there was a big effort to not change them, but then all of a sudden there were big increases. Right, and. You know, I keep on thinking of the restaurant, and sort of analogy where you go and they tell you it's like a 30-minute wait, but you come back and it's like 20 minutes and you feel like, oh, that was really fast, right? So I think with the percentages, if we're gonna have increases in future years. It's much easier, I think, to kind of lean them in.
Yes,
I also think that the modeling is really difficult. So if you kept the water the way it is now, it could go south very quickly. I mean, if we have a summer like we're starting to have where we have no rain for 4 days and then a big thunderstorm, the people who manage their, myself included, who manage their outside water stuff will turn it off. Because you only need 1 inch of water every like 5 days, basically for your grass. And so that 30%, you know, it's, the modeling is really hard. So that's not my, so my order would be G, G, D, and then B max, I think.
on the reverse, B, D,
Yeah.
G.
Yeah, I'm GDB as well.
That's 3 votes for E, number 1, right?
Right.
How,
So we-
is that how
we-
it works?
Matt, we're.
We're out of it.
I'm kind of in your camp. GDB.
And then Peter, you were,
EGP.
Howard.
Harold, right. I am B, D, and G, alphabetical.
The only, I guess, the only argument against that would be, because I also understand what you're saying, Harold, but you know, it's really up to you when you present that, right? And to kind of say, hey, fiscally, this is really the most responsible one that we want to recommend, but certainly here's other options if you feel like it's too heavy-handed, right?
Yeah, I mean, I also appreciate the fact that Dave has, intimate knowledge of the town finances. And, I do want to respect that fact. Also with the fact that next year, as long as we telegraph it, there's gonna be a big potentially water increase next year, which could include a base charge and or volumetric adjustment. I think that's fine. I can live with that.
And maybe that's the narrative.
Yeah.
Right, we can approach it, there's, committee members, majority thought this was the proper approach. But then there's, 2 other schools of thought.
We certainly presented that, majority of the committee, but that, think that, alternative G would be the, primary recommendation. But also the committee, sees merit, in alternatives B and D that are this, and came in with 3 recommendations for the board to consider.
Which was a unanimous agreement.
Mhm.
Yes.
So that, that's important.
But just the asterisk that would be is more risk because.
Yeah.
Keeping the water risk level introduces more risk. They just, as long as they know that.
Okay,
That can be set up.
okay. So are we, any more discussion on it? Are we comfortable with that approach and that recommendation?
When is that meeting?
It's next Tuesday.
What was the final percentage on G again?
5.8%, yes.
Tuesday at 5:00.
The hearing scheduled for 6:10.
Upstairs.
Okay, do we want to move back to the
No,
topic?
I didn't mean to cut you off, I just, yeah, it's 6:10. So then there's there's some other event they want to get out of the way.
Oh, it's a coincidence on 6:10, it's 6:10.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was like, written down on the 10th.
You know, I worked on the series of hands
Yeah.
20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Right, and so I just remember all the rage ball and stuff that we had to play, you know.
Yeah.
That's all. I don't think they do that anymore.
Okay, any other topics or?
Yeah, the only other thing I would bring up too is that, and maybe this is something that we just have to kick around at another time, but we did look at some of those things last week that had, basically that so much cubic feet already included in some of those base rates. And, you know, the more I thought about that, I kind of thought, you know, at some point in the evolution of all of this, like, it kept making a lot of sense to me that. But I don't know how you felt about, like,
Truthfully, those are my preferred ones.
Yeah.
But, you know, with Dave saying that it was gonna be politically complicated, I get it, I understand. Those were, I thought those were the most logical. And effective tools.
I have a really hard time wrapping my head around that, mostly because. Rate setting carries there. So if you, if you look at the purposes behind rate setting, right, they're supposed to drive behavior. And so when you start counting in like cubic feet that it's included. There has to be a rationale why it's that number, you know, it's just like it's.
I
it's a
agree
whole
that-
philosophical thing, and I think it just takes like, even it needs somebody, bring in somebody to kind of explain, okay, if you're starting with a blank piece of paper. This is how you go about thinking about it.
I don't know if I fully
Yeah.
agree in terms of driving behavior. When you have, I mean, other states and localities have independent water authorities and independent sewer authorities. If you're building a new wastewater treatment plant or a water treatment plant, you're raising rates to pay the debt service and capital costs.
Yeah.
You're not trying to influence behavior on
But the
that,
step charge is meant to drive behavior, that's the whole.
depending on your locale.
But I think that's what I liked about it was that, I guess in my mind, I kept looking at it from, it had so much that you were gonna have in that step, which is kind of like your first step, right? And then you have a lot of people that fall into that don't use a lot of water, and I'm just thinking of people that are maybe elderly people or people on these fixed income and stuff that. We could set a bill in the future that they just know what their water bill is. And they're gonna use probably as much water they're ever gonna use in that step.
Yeah.
And all. of
Yeah.
that. I was thinking more. in terms of
Yeah,
that.
from that perspective, yeah, and how you come up with that, I
Instead
mean,
of it's going up, now it's going this way, and then they can just be like, hey, listen, if you use the same amount of water you've been using the last 10 years. You're gonna be paying this.
yeah, I mean, I don't think that the steps drive I mean, I certainly don't change my behavior.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I'm not looking down the meter and say, holy moly, it's like the 20th, but like.
Well, that's why I've been asking about the elasticity of demand stuff. It doesn't,
Yeah,
I
it
don't
doesn't-
think it
yeah.
influences. It's more efficiencies we discussed in the past.
I mean, I like the idea from like the fixed income, like that perspective, and then come up with a number from that perspective, yeah. I don't know.
Just a thought, I know we're not gonna be able to figure that out right now, but
I think it's a good. I agree, it's a good point.
Anything else? Do we want to talk about future next meeting or?
Next means we can have a meeting before the start of the select board meeting, just to go over any questions that might come up before meeting with the select board, so scheduling a meeting for
Next Tuesday, the
next
11th.
Tuesday at 5:45.
Can people get here by 5:45?
Yeah.
I'm at 5:45, I'm gonna be here by 6.
So,
No,
Is the 11th. Let's regard the question.
I will not be able to be here, and I apologize. I can probably, is that acceptable, call in on that?
Oh, yes, we
Yeah.
can, we can.
I can
accommodate
do that, I'm just gonna be stuck at the office until 5:30, so I can call it at 5:45 or 6 or whatever. I'll just stay there.
So we need to be upstairs at 10.
At 5:10.
Sorry, it's 6:10.
Yeah.
All right, so 6:11 at 6:10. Sorry, at 5:45.
Wait, no, now you're confusing me.
6:11 is Tuesday. That's the board.
Yes,
Tuesday, 6:11, that,
5:45 down here.
here.
We'll adjourn before 6:10 to be upstairs at 6:10. Okay,
and you'll be technically the one person presenting up there, correct? You don't need the
Yeah.
entire committee or, yeah,
Dave does most of the presenting it.
guys.
And you can attend the select board meeting remotely as well.
Anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.